National Fire Protection Association 70, also known as the National Electric Code, or NEC, addresses hazardous classified locations in Article 500. Section 500.8. A6 requires explosion-proof lighting fixtures in Class 1, Division 1 hazardous locations, potentially including the interior of vessels where flammable vapors may be present. Section 500.8. A8 prohibits using flexible cords within hazardous locations unless specifically approved for the purpose. Occupational Safety and Health Administration, OSHA, Regulation 29 Code of Federal Regulations 1910.307 addresses hazardous classified locations. Paragraph B1 requires approved electrical equipment in hazardous locations. Paragraph B2. Roman 2 prohibits flexible cords within hazardous locations unless specifically approved. Considering those requirements, several points become clear. Firstly, explosion-proof lighting fixtures must be used inside a methanol storage vessel because it is a Class 1, Division 1 hazardous location. Secondly, flexible cords are not permitted inside the vessel unless specifically approved for hazardous locations. Therefore, using a 120 volts alternating current quartz light with a 6-foot flexible cord and wood head plug inside the vessel is non-compliant. The practice of using 24 volts direct current explosion-proof lighting with cord connections outside the vessel aligns with OSHA and NFPA requirements for hazardous locations. In summary, when working with methanol storage vessels or similar environments designated as Class 1, Division 1 hazardous locations, it is important to use appropriate explosion-proof lighting. Do not use standard flexible cords within the hazardous area. Ensure any electrical equipment, including lighting fixtures and cords, is approved and rated for the specific hazardous location. Following these guidelines helps maintain safety and prevent ignition hazards. Regularly inspect all equipment for damage or wear that could compromise its explosion-proof rating. This includes checking for cracks, loose connections, and deterioration of seals. Only qualified personnel should install, maintain, and inspect electrical equipment in hazardous locations. They must be trained in the specific requirements and safety procedures for such environments. Ensure that all personnel working in the area are aware of the hazardous location classification and the associated risks. Conduct regular safety training to reinforce the importance of adhering to safety protocols. Consider using intrinsically safe lighting and equipment where possible. Intrinsically safe devices are designed to limit the energy available to prevent ignition even in the event of a fault. When using portable lighting, ensure it is properly grounded to prevent static electricity buildup. Static discharge can be a potential ignition source in hazardous atmospheres. Before introducing any electrical equipment into a hazardous location, conduct a thorough risk assessment to identify potential hazards and implement appropriate control measures. Obtain the necessary permits and approvals before commencing any work in a hazardous location. This ensures that all safety requirements are met and that the work is conducted in a controlled manner. Maintain accurate records of all inspections, maintenance, and repairs performed on electrical equipment in hazardous locations. This documentation helps track the equipment's safety and compliance over time. Follow manufacturers' recommendations for installation, maintenance, and operation of explosion-proof lighting and equipment. This ensures that the equipment functions as intended and maintains its safety rating. In addition to explosion-proof lighting, consider using other safety measures such as ventilation to reduce the concentration of flammable vapors in the work area. Implement a lock-out take-out procedure to ensure that electrical equipment is energized before any maintenance or repairs are performed. Use non-sparking tools when working in hazardous locations to minimize the risk of ignition. Ensure that all electrical enclosures are properly sealed to prevent the ingress of flammable vapors. Conduct regular atmospheric testing to monitor the levels of flammable vapors in the work area. This helps ensure that the environment remains safe for personnel and equipment. Use certified grounding and bonding techniques to minimize the risk of static electricity buildup and stray currents. Implement a fire prevention and suppression plan that is specific to the hazards present in the work area. Coordinate with local fire departments and emergency responders to ensure they are aware of the hazards and have appropriate response plans in place. Continuously monitor and evaluate the effectiveness of safety measures and make adjustments as needed. Stay informed about the latest regulations and industry best practices for working in hazardous locations. By following these guidelines and maintaining a strong safety culture, the risks associated with electrical work in hazardous locations can be minimized, protecting personnel and preventing incidents. Ensure all lighting equipment is properly labeled with its hazardous location rating and other relevant information. This helps prevent the accidental use of non-rated equipment in hazardous areas. Use only approved connectors and fittings when making electrical connections in hazardous locations. These components are designed to maintain the integrity of the explosion-proof enclosure. When using extension cords, ensure they are heavy-duty and suitable for the environment in which they are being used. Inspect extension cords regularly for damage and replace them if necessary. Avoid overloading electrical circuits in hazardous locations. Overloading can cause overheating and increase the risk of ignition. Use appropriately sized fuses or circuit breakers to protect electrical circuits from overcurrents. Ensure that all personnel working in hazardous locations are trained in the proper use of personal protective equipment, including respirators and flame-resistant clothing. Implement a system for reporting and investigating incidents and near misses in hazardous locations. This helps identify potential hazards and prevent future incidents. Conduct regular audits of electrical safety practices in hazardous locations to ensure compliance with regulations and company policies. Establish a clear chain of command and assign responsibility for electrical safety in hazardous locations. Foster a culture of safety in which all personnel are encouraged to speak up about potential hazards and safety concerns. Regularly review and update safety procedures to reflect changes in regulations, technology, and work practices. Consider using remote monitoring and control systems to reduce the need for personnel to enter hazardous locations. Implement a system for managing and tracking hazardous materials in the work area. Use appropriate signage and labeling to identify hazardous locations and communicate safety information. Conduct regular inspections of grounding systems to ensure they are properly connected and functioning. Implement a program for managing static electricity in hazardous locations, including the use of grounding straps and static dissipative materials. Consider using wireless communication systems to reduce the need for cables and cords in hazardous locations. Ensure that all electrical equipment is properly maintained and serviced according to manufacturers' recommendations. Implement a system for tracking and managing electrical permits and approvals. Conduct regular training on electrical safety for all personnel working in or around hazardous locations. Emphasize the importance of following safety procedures and using appropriate equipment. Encourage personnel to ask questions and seek clarification on any safety concerns. Make safety information readily available to all personnel in the work area. Use visual aids such as posters and diagrams to reinforce safety messages. Conduct regular drills and exercises to prepare personnel for potential emergencies. Ensure that all emergency exits are clearly marked and accessible. Maintain a well-stocked first aid kit in the work area. Establish a clear communication protocol for reporting emergencies. Review and update the emergency response plan regularly. Work closely with local emergency responders to ensure they are familiar with the facility and its hazards. Conduct regular safety meetings to discuss safety issues and share best practices. Encourage personnel to participate in safety committees and initiatives. Recognize and reward employees who demonstrate a commitment to safety. Promote a culture of continuous improvement in safety performance. Stay informed about emerging safety technologies and trends. Invest in safety equipment and training to protect personnel from hazards. Make safety a priority in all aspects of the operation. Lead by example and demonstrate a commitment to safety at all levels of the organization. Regularly assess and evaluate the effectiveness of the safety program. Seek feedback from personnel and stakeholders to identify areas for improvement. Continuously strive to create a safer and healthier work environment for all. It is also important to consider specific requirements related to the type of hazardous materials being stored or processed in the vessel. For example, if the vessel contains flammable liquids or gases, additional precautions may be necessary to prevent spills or leaks. Similarly, if the vessel contains corrosive or toxic materials, special measures may be needed to protect personnel from exposure. In addition to electrical safety, it is also important to address other potential hazards associated with vessel entry, such as confined space entry, fall protection, and respiratory protection. Ensure that all personnel entering the vessel are properly trained and equipped to work safely in these conditions. Implement a comprehensive vessel entry program that includes procedures for hazard assessment, permit issuance, atmospheric testing, and continuous monitoring. Regularly review and update the vessel entry program to reflect changes in regulations, technology, and work practices. Coordinate with other departments and contractors to ensure that all work activities are properly coordinated and controlled. Establish clear communication channels between all parties involved in the vessel entry process. Conduct regular inspections of the vessel and its associated equipment to identify potential hazards and ensure that all safety measures are in place. Maintain accurate records of all inspections, maintenance, and repairs performed on the vessel. Implement a system for managing and tracking vessel entry permits and approvals. Use appropriate signage and labeling to identify the vessel and communicate safety information. Conduct regular training on vessel entry procedures for all personnel who may be required to enter the vessel. Emphasize the importance of following safety procedures and using appropriate equipment. Encourage personnel to ask questions and seek clarification on any safety concerns. Make safety information readily available to all personnel in the work area. Use visual aids, such as posters and diagrams, to reinforce safety messages. Conduct regular drills and exercises to prepare personnel for potential emergencies. Ensure that all emergency exits are clearly marked and accessible. Maintain a well-stocked first aid kit in the work area. Establish a clear communication protocol for reporting emergencies. Review and update the emergency response plan regularly. Work closely with local emergency responders to ensure they are familiar with the facility and its hazards. Conduct regular safety meetings to discuss safety issues and share best practices. Encourage personnel to participate in safety committees and initiatives. Recognize and reward employees who demonstrate a commitment to safety. Promote a culture of continuous improvement in safety performance. Stay informed about emerging safety technologies and trends. Invest in safety equipment and training to protect personnel from hazards. Make safety a priority in all aspects of the operation. Lead by example and demonstrate a commitment to safety at all levels of the organization. Regularly assess and evaluate the effectiveness of the safety program. Seek feedback from personnel and stakeholders to identify areas for improvement. Continuously strive to create a safer and healthier work environment for all. This includes considerations for ventilation, personal protective equipment, and emergency response procedures. Ensure the vessel is properly grounded to prevent static electricity buildup. Use non-sparking tools and equipment inside the vessel. Implement a lockout-tagout procedure to isolate the vessel from all energy sources before entry. Conduct atmospheric testing to ensure that the air inside the vessel is safe to breathe. Provide personnel with appropriate respiratory protection if necessary. Use continuous monitoring to detect any changes in the atmospheric conditions inside the vessel. Ensure that all personnel entering the vessel are properly trained in confined space entry procedures. Provide rescue equipment and personnel in case of an emergency. Establish a clear communication system between personnel inside the vessel and those outside. Conduct regular drills and exercises to practice emergency response procedures. Review and update the vessel entry program regularly to ensure it is effective. Continuously improve safety practices to prevent accidents and injuries. Prioritize the safety of personnel above all else. Create a culture of safety where everyone is responsible for their own safety and the safety of others.